Hello everyone, how are you guys doing? Hey, so I am posting a podcast that I did for one of my classes. It's a good watch. I'm just saving it to my YouTube for posterity so I could have it later on. If you guys want to listen, you guys can and enjoy. Hello, my name is D-Law Keller. This is my podcast titled What is Defunding the Police and How It Works. I will be discussing what it means to defund the police. In light of what happened in June 2020 with George Floyd, the calls for defunding police have been brought to the forefront. This is not the first time defunding the police came up in American history. We can trace the first mention of defunding the police back to 1935 with W.E.B. Du Bois, again in 1960s by activist Angela Davis, and in 2017 with an article published by Alex Vitale called The End of Policing. Defunding police, one would think that this means getting rid of all police officers. This is not the case. Defunding is just divesting funds earmarked for police to non-policing forms of public safety, such as youth services, housing, education, healthcare, and mental health issues plaguing not only California, but cities throughout the United States. According to the NEA.org, there was an estimated 240 million calls to 911 dispatch in a year. Out of those calls, 4.4 are violent crimes. The New Haven Independent with the Freedom of Information Act states that 95.6% of police calls are for non-violent crimes. Statistics from mentalillnesspolicy.org states staggering numbers on police and mental health calls to 911. Out of 2,406 officers who have been on the force for 20 plus years, 84.28% said there have been an increase in the mentally ill populations over their career. 62.03% of the respondents' departments say that they spent on calls of service dealing with the mentally ill. They asked these police officers anonymously for more of a human perspective instead of just statistics, and one of the officers' quote stuck out to me. They say, "Our jurisdiction is extremely rural. If a person requires inpatient treatment, then it is a 4-hour drive to the hospital, and our ambulance service will not transport. Given that most evaluations take 2 hours at minimum, that leaves an officer out of service for a minimum of 10 hours because we only have 8 officers, including the chief. It also means calling someone in on their days off to make that transport. Instead of having the police force who are ill-equipped and not trained to handle the mentally ill, we can fund crisis counselors that are trained and that can be dispatched to de-escalate any mental crises, freeing the police department to deal with what they are trained for, protecting and serving the communities they work for. We can see in a big city in California who recently implemented defunding the police department for mental health initiatives. In Los Angeles 2020, the Los Angeles Police Department budget was 18% of the city's budget, at $1.85 billion every year. This is from Los Angeles Times article printed on June 3rd, 2020, titled Defund LAPD, a Rallying Cry. The mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, took $150 million from that $1.85 billion budget and redirected that to community initiatives. This shows how massive the budget of the police departments are and that the funding can go back to the community. I feel that this can and needs to be implemented. The pressure on the police and the lack of training to deal with communities that are struggling, whether it be due to the educational system, mental health resources, or poverty levels, the funding is better spent back into the community to fix these issues. Experts in their field help guide. Thank you for listening to this important topic, and I feel that it needed some clarification on what defunding the police really means.